It's Tuesday, January 3. In the headlines, PM urges young Jamaican males to turn away from criminality and violence before it's too late. In the region, green energy, Guyana's newfound wealth. In business, Link celebrates 1 year with over 1 billion in transactions. Internationally, Chinese return to regular activities amid COVID surge. And in sport, Brazilians bid farewell to football legend Pele. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I am Maya Chung. Prime Minister Andrew Holness is making an appeal to the young males of the nation to turn away from crime and violence, to which they are both the victims and perpetrators. He made his appeal during his annual address to the nation this week at the start of 2023. According to the Prime Minister, the spike in violent activity is most noted in the young males of the land, and this development has to be rolled back if the nation is to progress. The PM also asked Jamaicans to pay attention to their mental health, especially as fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic has occurred. He urged persons to seek therapy where possible. Prime Minister Holness said that the Jamaican citizens' tough attitude has led to an ineffective response to personal and social trauma in daily life, resulting in more violent responses in different relationships to the detriment of Jamaicans. He says violence is becoming normalized and this is not acceptable. Carla Thomas Hewitt has that report.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness, in his address, said gun crimes, particularly among the 16 to 25 demographic, is one of the most insidious evils of modern-day Jamaica, and its increase is now destroying the nation. Against this background, the Prime Minister said that the government has been very earnest in its approach to improve public order. Citing the current status of the crime and violence plaguing Jamaica as an epidemic, he lauded the fact of the newly passed legislation relating to firearms as a crowning achievement on the road to curbing crime within Jamaica.
Guns are the main enabling weapons used by violence producers, and ease of access to guns of itself extensifies fatal violence. Last year, we took a major step in deterring the procurement, possession, trafficking, and use of guns by passing a new Firearms Act, which has totally transformed the legislative framework around legal and illegal guns in Jamaica. It is now a minimum 15 years to life for a person convicted of an illegal gun offense. Since the coming into force of the new Firearms Act on the 1st of November 2022, over 70 persons, that is a rate of more than one person per day, mostly young men between 16 and 30 years old, are being charged with offenses relating to illegal guns.
He indicated that within the next few months, murder penalties will increase to over 30 years.
I want to take this opportunity to appeal to our young men who are both the perpetrators of gun crime and the victims of gun crimes to turn away from guns. Avoid persons who you know have guns or have dealings with guns. The probability of being arrested and taken out of society for at least 15 years is increasing daily. Throw away the gun. Don't throw away your life.
On the contentious issue of bad roads, Mr. Holness said multiple billions of dollars have been allocated to address some of the issues that are affecting many of Jamaica's road networks.
In 2023, we will turn focus on secondary, community, and rural road repairs. Last year, your government made a special allocation of over $3 billion towards repairing secondary roads. You should start to see the effects in communities across Jamaica very soon. While the allocation is significant, it is a mere drop in the bucket for what is needed to repair all our roads, the vast majority of which have not had routine maintenance and would be at the end of their design life. In the next financial year, more focus will be given to these secondary roads and rural roads. However, we must also have a national conversation about the spatial development of Jamaica and where and how we choose to live. It is not economically possible, neither is it practical or desirable, given climate change, population shifts, and location of industrial clusters.
The PM also looked at garbage mitigation.
We are far advanced with the development of a business case for an integrated waste management solution that will involve a new sanitary landfill to replace Riverton, the divestment of municipal waste collection and management, and the development of a waste-to-energy plant. The solution will be implemented through a public-private partnership, and aspects of the plan will begin to manifest this year. Keeping our towns and cities clean has been a challenge for Jamaica for decades. 2023 will be the year when we begin to implement the total transformation of municipal waste disposal and management.
He said the ultimate transformation in waste management lies with citizens.
The ultimate transformation of our municipal waste system requires behavior change on the part of our citizens. Litterers and polluters must pay. Later this year, the government will pass legislation to increase the fines for illegal and improper disposal of municipal waste, and a bill will be tabled requiring citizens to separate their garbage. However, the Cabinet has already agreed and decided that a policy directive will be issued shortly to all government entities, requiring them to institute measures for the separation of the waste they generate.
The PM indicated that the coming policy will include schools and hospitals. Prime Minister Holness added that 2023 is being welcomed by all and should be looked at with a spirit of hope, optimism, and faith. For the news on PBCJ, I am Carla Thomas Hewitt.
And it's now time for the Business Report with Danita Rodney.
Digital wallet Link has hit the $1.5 billion mark in transactions in its first year of operations. Launched in December 2021, Link is Jamaica's first digital wallet application that enables customers to use their phones to carry out digital transactions without having to carry around credit cards, debit cards, or cash. The company has also announced new features for 2023, including the island-wide rollout of its merchant platform, a remittance service, and debit cards to make payments safe, quick, and easy. Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Friday, December 30, the US dollar sold for an average of $152.05. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $108.48. The pound sterling traded for $182.09, and the euro sold for $165.07. In JSE trading, the JSE index advanced by 4,672 points. The junior market index advanced by 74 points. The combined market index advanced by 5,046 points, and the All Jamaican Composite Index advanced by 8,864 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 112 stocks, of which 68 advanced, 32 declined, and 12 traded firm. Stocks advanced for Access Financial Services Limited, AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, and Barita Investments Limited. Stocks declined for Caribbean Assurance Brokers Limited, Consolidated Bakers Jamaica Limited, and Dairy One Trading Company Limited. Trading firm 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, CAC 2000 9.5%, Cumulative Redeemable Preference Shares, and Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited. The overall volume leaders were Kingston Properties Limited with over 130 million units, Wigton Wind Farm Limited Ordinary Shares with over 30 million units, and Future Energy Source Company Limited Ordinary Shares with over 3 million units. In regional stocks, on the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange, Plico Investment Fund was the volume leader with over 90,000 shares, followed by Calisa Macro Index Fund with over 1,000 shares being traded. Zero Securities traded on the Barbados Stock Exchange. In regional business, oil production offshore Guyana has profoundly transformed the country's business environment across all sectors with a large influx of foreign investors. Now, businesses are being encouraged to expand their business and set up new ventures to adapt to the changing dynamics.
The government is keen to ensure local participation of businesses in the changing business environment, but wants citizens to understand their individual roles in ensuring preparedness for the big league. So says the Minister of Tourism, Industry and Commerce, Onaj Waldron, under whose remit the development of small businesses fall. During 2022, under the direction of the Small Business Bureau, the government deployed efforts to ensure that emerging and existing small businesses are compliant for graduation for high-stakes dealings.
Because ordinarily, our traditions has been just a mom and pop, shop. You don't go out there. But this idea of where Guyana is going, it's big business, and the consortiums are not possible if you're not organized and structured. And being registered, being compliant are all parts of those things.
Compliance would see businesses paying their taxes to the Guyana Revenue Authority and making financial contributions to the National Insurance Scheme. This amounts to ensuring that the finances of businesses are more organized and there is better record keeping. Waldron reminded too that the procurement laws of Guyana mandate that businesses must have compliance, and consequential failure to do so would see local businesses losing out on opportunities made available by the government.
This is the big leagues, and you really have to. It is not enough to the way that you've been operating. You have to now think of the big picture and get yourselves organized. And for some of us Guyanese businesses, the idea is to learning about corporate structure, getting incorporated. Setting up in consortium, because the amount of capital that some of these investments and partnerships are going to need, especially with a foreign company, and you're speaking about oil and gas and other kinds of businesses, but particularly oil and gas, the capital expenditure that is needed is large, and one sole proprietor cannot by himself or herself engage in that.
Waldron further stressed that Guyanese businesses must pay more attention to becoming incorporated instead of conducting sole proprietorships. She urged that they become more open to partnerships and less distrusting. Altogether, she believes there is enough of the pie for everyone to have, both foreign and local, and said the challenge is now to grow past the one-man type of business operations. For the newsroom, Kurt Campbell.
In international business, South Korea says it would fine American electric vehicle maker Tesla $2.2 million for failing to tell its customers about the EV's shorter driving range in low temperatures.
South Korea's antitrust regulator is fining Tesla $2.2 million, saying the company overstated the driving range of its electric vehicles, which turn out to be shorter in cold weather. A spokesman for the Korea Fair Trade Commission, Nam Dong-il, on Tuesday explained the EV maker's violations in an online briefing.
This is due to false, exaggerated, and deceptive advertisements on driving ranges, performance of superchargers, and reduction in fuel costs for its electric vehicles.
According to the Commission, the driving range of the American EV maker's cars can plunge in low temperatures by up to about half of what they're advertised online. Tesla could not be immediately reached for comment. On its website, Tesla provides winter driving tips such as preconditioning vehicles with external power sources and using its app to monitor energy consumption, but does not mention the loss of driving range in sub-zero temperatures. The issue has been known at least since 2021, when a South Korean consumer group said the driving range of most EVs dropped by up to 40% in cold temperatures when batteries need to be heated. It cited data from the country's Environment Ministry, which stated that Tesla's vehicles fared the worst.
In market data for oil prices edged lower in volatile trade due to weak demand data from China and a gloomy economic outlook. Brent crude futures fell $1.13 to $84.78 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude was down $1.01 at $79.25. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Denida Rodney.
In regional news, Guyana is undergoing an energy boom after huge oil fields were discovered off its Atlantic coast. Now it is using that newfound wealth to fund solar projects benefiting isolated, mainly indigenous communities.
Deep in the remote jungles of Guyana, far from the coastal power grid, where the Kaitour Falls meet a rainforest that blankets the landscape, a new generation of Guyanese Amerindians is seeing the light. Before solar power panels adorned the village, this underdeveloped region ran on expensive diesel generators or no power at all.
They say that they used to use like lamps, torchlights, when they didn't have lights, using the torchlight to study at night.
In the village of Kaito, an hour-and-a-half's flight from the capital of Georgetown, solar energy now powers the school's new computer lab, the lights and air conditioning that cools this tropical climate.
It's quite comfortable here in a remote area. So it's beautiful in terms of having our solar energy and electricity up and running.
Even thatched roof huts are energized off the grid.
It powered all of the houses. Even government buildings like schools, the health center, the village office.
This renewable renaissance was previously possible, but unaffordable until now. Beneath the waters off the Guyanese coast lies a newly discovered bounty of oil, enough to transform a country with a poverty rate near 40%, according to the World Bank, to an oil-rich republic. Now the nation's newfound oil wealth is funding an energy project that is electrifying the rural landscape.
We are pursuing a program to provide some 30,000 solar home systems to communities that are distant and far removed from the national grid.
While Guyana is just beginning to export oil to the world, President Irfan Ali wants to replace carbon-based fuels at home with renewable energy, with a goal of cutting the cost of power in half.
We have a very oil-rich system. Our power is driven by fossil fuel. The demand for power has grown exponentially. So we're investing in solar, hydro, wind, and natural gas as part of our energy mix.
The nation's energy planners are harnessing the rainforest rivers to power hydro plants like this one near Kaito. Even in the capital of Georgetown, where Guyana's oil boom is being felt the most, solar power is transforming the landscape and the power grid. If that boom can continue, experts say the fossil fuel bounty off the Guyanese coast has the potential to provide clean energy to the country's remotest regions and lift the fortunes of the next generation. John Hendren, Al Jazeera, Georgetown, Guyana.
Moving into the Bahamas at this time, the Caribbean Development Bank is putting $43.3 million into the construction of a new school and the rehabilitation of 2 others in East Grand Bahama to accommodate students whose schools were destroyed by Hurricane Dorian in 2019.
In a press release, the CDB said the bank's board of directors approved a loan to the government of the Bahamas at its December 9th meeting. Under the project, the East End Primary School will be rehabilitated and a new East Grand Bahama Comprehensive School will be constructed. In addition, 2,000 teachers and principals will be trained in learning recovery and enhancement to address the learning loss caused by COVID-19. Now the total cost of the project is $48 million, with the government contributing counterpart funding of $4.6 million, $76 million rather.
The Barbados government will be intensifying its calls for reparations this year. Minister in the Prime Minister's office, Senator Dr. Chantal Monroe Knight, gave the assurance during a recent Kwanzaa celebration. She dismissed the notion that it is simply about black people wanting money.
We are calling attention to our history, but not because we are now seeing ourselves as victims, but seeing ourselves as having a clear understanding of the narrative and are repudiating the narrative that we were told, and also we are claiming our own victory. And that is important. That is the reparations. There are some who would suggest that the issues of reparative justice is just about, black people calling attention and to the ills and just wanting money from the colonizer. But it is more than that. Yeah, it is about more than that. People who have been done wrong have the right to be able to demand justice.
Antigua and Barbuda's tourism sector is well on its way to recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. That is according to Tourism Minister Charles Fernandez.
Tourism Minister Charles Fernandez says tourism officials originally predicted arrivals into the country for 2022 to reach 75% of total arrivals for 2019.
The end of 2022, we'll be back to about 90% of where we were in record-breaking 2019. And I believe if we didn't have the war in Ukraine earlier this year, we would have beaten that figure.
Minister Fernandez says increases in world oil prices resulting from Russia's invasion of Ukraine led to an increase in airfare.
There was a drop for a couple of months in terms of persons coming, visitors coming. And then we went into the summer where people said, well, we got to live with this thing. And prices of fuel started to come down, and we set records right through, coming all the way up to the end of October.
For 2023, the tourism minister expects the country to surpass 2019 numbers. In addition to strong air arrivals, the 5th cruise berth will also bolster sea arrivals.
The biggest ship to come will come on the 28th of January. That is something that we're looking forward to. And that is almost the same size as the Oasis class. The first Oasis class will come in the next season. So we're very excited for 2023, and we're looking forward to a great year.
Rakib Aparisi reporting for ABS News.
In international news, legendary American news anchor Barbara Walters has died at the age of 93. Walters shattered the glass ceiling, becoming the first female broadcaster to present an evening news program at ABC in 1976.
It has been an absolutely joyful, rewarding, challenging, fascinating, and occasionally bumpy ride, and I wouldn't change a thing.
A trailblazer for women in journalism. When Barbara Walters started out at NBC in the early 1960s, women struggled to be taken seriously in the newsroom. But in the years that followed, she built her name as one of the most revered figures in American journalism.
When women tell me that they entered the field of journalism or went to school to study it because of me, that's my legacy. That makes me very proud. That's lasting. There weren't these women when I began, and I'm so glad if I could inspire anyone.
Walters made headlines herself in 1976 when she became America's first female network news anchor. It came with a then unprecedented $1 million salary.
But if you were in charge of the defense, did it just get away from you? What happened?
Already a household name, her hard-hitting interviews with presidents, royalty, and pop culture icons solidified her place as a star in the world of news. Walters became a fixture at NBC for the next 4 decades. As her stature grew, she blurred lines between journalist and celebrity.
Well, it's very exciting and thrilling and kind of crazy. I mean, to be a star, when you're in the news department, you're not considered a star. You're considered a very serious journalist. At least you hope you are. So, this is my claim to immortality.
Walters received countless awards for her work, including a Peabody and 12 Emmys. In her later career, she continued to break new ground with her daytime panel show, The View. The all-female chat show proved an unexpected hit, a testament to her continued appeal and her capacity for reinvention.
I hope that I will be remembered as a good and courageous journalist. I hope that some of my interviews not created history, but were a witness to history, although I know that title's been used. And I think that when I look at what I have done, I have a great sense of accomplishment. I don't want to sound, proud and haughty, but I think I've had just a wonderful career.
As COVID-19 measures are eased in China, life in major cities is starting to return to normal after the sudden easing of restrictions triggered a surge in coronavirus infections in recent weeks. The lifting of curbs came after widespread protests in November.
In wintry Beijing, the pace of life is picking up. People are enjoying being outdoors after weeks of staying inside after a widespread COVID-19 outbreak. Yao Sanfu sells traditional sweets from his cart. He welcomed the lifting of restrictions in December.
It's good. They've ended all the restrictions. Everyone can come out now. It's good for the country. If you are always in lockdown, you have no income.
He says business is better now than it's been in years. The 67-year-old had COVID-19 last month. Many of the people we spoke to in this neighborhood have told us they also caught the virus.
At least 70 to 80% of people in this area got COVID. One after another, we all got sick.
For those who have recovered, life has returned to normal. Tests and health code scans are no longer required to enter restaurants and public spaces.
Tuesday is the first working day of 2023 and the streets here are busier than they've been in months. Many businesses have reopened and most workers have returned to the office.
But it's not just the streets that are crowded. Hospitals are full of people seeking treatment for COVID-19. The Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention says less than 500,000 people have been infected nationwide. But scientists say cases are dramatically underreported.
In sports, thousands of people have queued for hours to pay their final respects to Brazilian football legend Pele. He died on Thursday at age 82 and will be laid to rest near the stadium where his career started. Al Jazeera's John Holman reports.
Pele coming home for the very last time. To the football ground where he made his name as a 16-year-old. The small Vila Belmiro stadium where he turned the Santos team into a global force and himself into Orhei, the king. A mark of his royal status, the elite military unit which usually guards the president, assigned to watch over his coffin. And then the mourners came. Thousands filing past to pay their last respects. Pele had been omnipresent in Brazil for so long, it was hard for some to comprehend that he was gone.
By the time I passed his coffin, I felt like crying because I know that this is the last time.
It's hard to overstate the importance of Pele to a country in which the government once declared him legally a national treasure. His was the dream, rising from a childhood's shining shoes to being the embodiment of Brazil's hope and joy at a time darkened by a military dictatorship. Abroad too, he was feted and idolised as someone who made the difficult look easy and football fun.
The first picture I had on the wall in my bedroom was Pele, and he was the representation and the inspiration of the best and the most beautiful you have in football. So for me it was always my idol from very, very early age.
Outside of the stadium, the queue to file past the coffin snaked back on itself again and again. The atmosphere was celebratory, not sad. After all, Pele was 82 and had struggled with cancer for a long time. At the luncheonettes, local bars around the ground, everyone seemed to have a story about how they'd seen him or met him. Audrey Chavez told us she was his nutritionist in his final year.
Once a month, I'd take his measurements, what he would eat if he was well. What a real honour, right? I could have never imagined it.
Like so many here, even though his last game was 45 years ago, the videos of many of his exploits grainy. The stories and the memories have been passed on, young as well as old turning out to say goodbye. The sun's setting now in the Vila Belmiro stadium, the last sunset that its most famous son is going to see in this place. People are still filing past his coffin to pay their last respects. Current Santos players arrived as twilight fell. A silent question echoing into the dusk as they left. Is there another Pele out there?
And that is news on PBCJ. I am Maya Chung. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thanks for watching.